The age-old saying goes like this: if it looks like an anime, sounds like an anime, and acts like an anime, is it an anime? Us mere mortals will never know the answer to this question. But over the past few decades, the styles of more than a few Western series have gotten fans talking because of how much they look and feel like anime. You know, whatever anime means to you. A few people have even given the clumsy moniker of Americanime, whatever, American anime. No matter how you feel about the is it anime debate, you know, I think we all love to see North American cartoon creators pay homage to the anime that inspired them. But how do we get from a few anime references to shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Boondocks, Teen Titans, and Castlevania, series that unabashedly wore their anime hearts on their sleeves? And how did this trend come to almost redefine a medium? Well, folks, let's find out. First though, a bit of a disclaimer: the cartoons I'll be covering have actual anime influences, with the creators often explicitly saying, yes, we were inspired by anime. So, you know, we won't just be listing American cartoons that were animated overseas and then released in the United States. If I did that, this video would roughly be 1,000,000 years long. Also, we won't be talking about anime series that were heavily edited for their release in America, like Beast King Go Lion, which was heavily tampered with to create Voltron, because they were Japanese anime that were localized, not US homegrown organic American anime. I'm gonna stop saying that out loud. So if you've watched one of my videos before, you know that most of them start by looking back to that first iconic anime import, Astro Boy, and you know, this one is no different, but I'll keep it quick. In 1963 America, JFK was president, the #1 TV show was the Beverly Hillbillies, and zip codes had just been introduced by the good folks at the United States Postal Service. But more important than all of that combined, Astro Boy, the legendary robot boy created by the legend Osamu Tezuka, was broadcasted on the US airwaves. Astro Boy, it was loud, action-packed, and created and licensed fairly cheaply. From then on, the US received stuff like Gigantor, Speed Racer, Star Blazers, and eventually even Akira and Fist of the North Star. This moved us along to the 80s and the early 90s, and it's here that the anime influences on things really start to shine through. Where, you ask? Well, in two little cartoons that you might recall pretty fondly: Transformers and X-Men. First, the Transformers was originally inspired by a Japanese toy series called Microman, a line that included not only little robotic looking figurines, but big robots for them to pilot. Toy company Hasbro was quick to team up with Marvel Productions to create a storyline for what would become an empire of action figures and cartoons. And in a way that nearly mirrored Mobile Suit Gundam's resurgence, thanks to rampant model and toy sales in Japan just a few years earlier, Transformers was created with toys in mind. US regulations on basically using cartoons to promote products had been loosened at this point, and so Transformers became one big Japanese-inspired toy commercial. Other North American shows about big robots doing big stuff like Mighty Orbots would quickly follow, as would shows about fantastical heroes set in space like The Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers. But now, the X-Men. Colorful, dynamic, and with an intricately serialized plot that resembled anime storyline far more than its other peers in the Fox Kids block, X-Men looked a bit like anime, all the way down to its editing. See, Warner Brothers had just guaranteed the iconic Batman the Animated Series a lavish budget, seeing as if it was coming hot off the heels of the blockbuster success of the Batman Returns. X-Men didn't have the same kind of luck, and so its creators had to construct a Marvel TV show with far less resources. Along with designs that seemed like a blend between the comic book characters at the time and anime heroes, they also borrowed the anime technique of swifter editing to hide any animation imperfections. The result was a fantastic show that featured classic American creations but felt unlike anything else on TV. Oh, and when it aired in Japan, it got a rad Japanese theme song and a complete anime opening to match. Please check it out, you won't regret it. sick as shit. Magneto is summoning like Zerglings, and the X-Men just annihilate them, and all of a sudden you get a shock. But there's one more branch on this limb of the tree. As the two of the influential writers of X-Men, the brothers Mark Edward Edens and Michael Edens would depart the show to work on Exo Squad, the Universal Family's network attempt at beating anime at its own game, with the themes of war and loss and pew pew mechas like this one that looks like the alien robot suit, and that one just looks like Goliath from StarCraft. It was a little heavier than Saturday morning programming was known to be at the time. But what rose in the 80s and 90s absolutely flourished in the 2000s. The early aughts were full of TV series that took heavy cues from anime, combining humor, martial arts, and the awesome designs of artist Jeff Matsuda. Jackie Chan Adventures had action and adventure scenes that looked straight out of Naruto, meanwhile echoing classic Japanese pop cultures like Lone Wolf and Cub and Akira Kurosawa. Gendy Tartakovsky's Samurai Jack would be a hit on Cartoon Network, a channel that was already making a splash in the anime world with its hit programming block, Toonami. However, none of these series received as much attention for their anime-inspired visuals and storylines as
Other Avatar. Other one.
Damn it. Avatar: The Last Airbender, created by Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko. It's been praised as one of the greatest animated series of all time. The two creators had come from animating shows like Family Guy, but were desperate to work on something epic like Lord of the Rings, but with a little different style. Thus, Michael and Brian took their love for anime, martial arts, and East Asian philosophies and constructed the story of Aang, a bald 12-year-old kid who has incredible air controlling powers. When coming up with the structure of the show, the creators remembered three anime classics in particular: Princess Mononoke, Cowboy Bebop, and Fully Cooley. Mononoke, like most of the works of Studio Ghibli and director Hayao Miyazaki, had a kind of heart that was far removed from the typical Western shows they've been working on. Meanwhile, Cowboy Bebop had a wide array of tones and kick-ass action, and Fully Cooley rewrote the rules for everything, according to them. One potential issue though, at the time, Nickelodeon had stayed away from the kinds of anime and anime-inspired series that their competitors had stuffed themselves with, and had turned down various shows like these. However, what they found with DiMartino and Konietzko was unbridled passion for their creation. A passion that led them to hire Sifu Kisu, a martial arts consultant, and a Chinese calligrapher to give that extra oomph for the show. Nickelodeon, as they grew increasingly impressed, ordered 6 episodes to start, and then 13, and finally 20 for the show's first season. And the anime inspiration was not something that the creators took very lightly. In fact, while they hoped anime fans would like it, Konietzko said in an interview with IGN, "I'll just say that America, us included, has a long way to go to catch up with the animated works being done in a handful of countries, namely Japan." Okay, I'm gonna take this bald cap off. Dumb being the Avatar. Around the same time, Teen Titans was a refreshing new entry into the annals of animation based on DC Comics, a company that's provided more than a few examples of Americana. The Superman shorts created by Flyshore Studios in the early 1940s are some of the most influential cartoons of all time, and pieces of them even inspired the works of Hayao Miyazaki. They would also help instill a certain energy in Batman the Animated Series, a show that is many fans' preferred version of The Dark Knight. So to have a DC series that looks more like anime than a traditional Western property was fairly unprecedented at the time. But Teen Titans never wavered. Coming off his works on Batman Beyond, Glenn Murakami was chosen to be the show's sole producer, which was a first in his career. And he wanted to differentiate his new series from what had come before, especially the film noir-esque antics of Batman. So, having loved anime for a long time and adoring stuff like Speed Racer, Kimba, and Akira, Murakami felt it was a natural choice for inspiration. He'd also grown to respect anime even more as he worked with the Japanese studio TMS on Superman the Animated Series and Batman Beyond. And since younger viewers at the time were growing up with the likes of Pokemon and Gundam, he figured it wouldn't seem out of place to them. Though he was accused of doing fake anime, Murakami stuck to his storytelling guns. He focused on the emotion and the humor and on trying new things, and Teen Titans would become a major success, lasting for 5 seasons and even getting a movie. And it gave us a version of Robin that's one of the best ever, with spiky hair and a relatable personality, bringing the character out of Batman's shadow. Murakami also found it cool that many anime characters didn't look like buff bodybuilders, but rather have body types that the kids watching the show might have. And so Murakami applied that idea to Robin. It wouldn't take too long for the Caped Crusader to get an anime-inspired treatment either. In 2004, kids WB fans got to watch The Batman, a series that oversaw the evolution from Batman's early years as a street-level crime fighter to his role as a member of the Justice League, with Jeff Matsuda from Jackie Chan Adventures helping to produce and providing the character designs. The Batman used an anime style to provide a new twist on a character that, at that point, was 65 years old. From then on, creators would be more and more open about the beautiful Japanese animation that drove them. The Boondocks was often celebrated for its anime style, a style that series creator Aaron McGruder had based off his love for shows like Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo. And it doesn't take too long for that influence to become extremely clear in many episodes. Meanwhile, Megas XLR took the giant robot genre and spun it on its head, providing a funny, adventurous, and tragically short-lived cartoon from 2 creators who grew up loving any and all anime that featured big old mechs. And even before Teen Titans had ended, a guy who worked on the show went off to devise his own anime-inspired epics. Sierra Nielli, who had directed a notable episodes of Teen Titans, including the first season, would end up creating Super Robot Monkey Team, Hyperforce Go. Nickelodeon, once hesitant to produce anime series or series like anime, ended up embracing it. The Avatar sequel, The Legend of Korra, was produced, and though Nickelodeon initially felt boys might not watch an adventure show with a girl as a lead character, they were quickly proven wrong. Test screening shows that boys absolutely did not care who the hero was as long as it was a good series, and The Legend of Korra went on for 4 very wonderful seasons. And in an example of this trend coming full circle, DreamWorks produced Voltron Legendary Defender in 2016. This Voltron series was made by American companies and lasted for 8 seasons on Netflix. There are countless other series that were at least partially influenced by anime. Glenn Murakami would go on to produce 2 installments in the Ben 10 franchise. The late extremely talented Monty Oum would create Ruby for Rooster Teeth. The Netflix Castlevania, with showrunner / producer Adi Shankar citing Ninja Scroll, Vampire Hunter D, and Captain Harlock as inspirations. And even Crunchyroll, a streaming service that you might have heard of, has Onyx Equinox, which takes on an anime influence and applies it to the Mesoamerican inspired setting. And these are just a few. Want to find more? It's kind of a throw a rock deal now, you know, anime is everywhere, even when it's not exactly anime. But why is this so important? We have anime and we have Western cartoons. Shouldn't it be enough to just kind of let them be a separate thing? Well, to an extent. You know, at a certain point, appropriation becomes a concern where creators refuse to acknowledge their inspirations, which does a disservice to both anime and American cartoons. Slightly unrelated, but I am looking at you, Christopher Nolan. But total separation is not how art or culture, for that matter, evolves. Like Japanese art have been helping the art of other countries to evolve and expand for centuries. Like it was a huge influence on painters like Vincent van Gogh and the Impressionist movement as a whole. The haiku, a style of poetry that branched off the traditional Japanese art of Renga, eventually became an integral part of how we teach poetry on a global level. The famous poet Jack Kerouac wrote a whole book's worth of them. Star Wars changed the way that Hollywood makes and promotes movies as a whole, and it might have not been possible if director George Lucas hadn't fallen so much in love with films like Hidden Fortress and other works by Akira Kurosawa. Martin Scorsese has been nominated for more Academy Awards than any other director living today, and even he dubbed Kurosawa as my master. Now, of course, on the flip side of that, there are plenty of Japanese art that were inspired by the West. Like, Akira Kurosawa was inspired by Western, cinema. And we could even do a whole video about that. Let us know in the comments if you'd like that. Just love any excuse to talk about Panty Stocking. Those are just a few examples. But it goes to show that Japanese influence has done more than make American cartoons feel like Dragon Ball Z. Japanese pop culture has driven Western artists to find new influences, seek new ways of creating, and challenge themselves to progress trends and eventually establish new ones. When you look at things like Avatar: The Last Airbender and Teen Titans, you're not just watching cartoons that happen to feel a lot like anime. You're watching talented people who are inspired by talented Japanese people create new inspirations for many others. Thank you for watching this video, and please be sure to subscribe and check out our other videos. Also, why not watch Onyx Equinox, huh? Or a bunch of other great anime titles on Crunchyroll.com, or go somewhere else.com and watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. I guess you could do that, but I gotta take this Avatar suit off. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.